Okay, I think the technology's working. We'll keep rambling for another moment or two to make sure that we're live everywhere that we're supposed to be live. Okay, it does look like it's going to work at least. So welcome. Happy Monday. Official welcome to this week's live Monday music motivation. We took a week off last week because I had some gigs, and I feel like I forgot how to do this. The technology forgot how to do this. But it does seem like we are live and everything's working now, so we can go ahead and get started. So what I wanted to sort of talk about today for today's little bit of motivation and inspiration for you is something kind of interesting that happened in my playing over the weekend, and something that I think is pretty relevant to my most recent video that I posted. The most recent video was the sort of 2 mistakes that every adult learner makes, every adult clarinetist, every adult musician, and really probably every adult, no matter what they're learning. And I talked about sort of the brain development as we grow and get older, and how our brain sort of becomes a little bit more fixed and efficient as we get older. And this happens for me as well. And in this Monday music motivation, I want to give you some ideas to sort of combat that and sort of move forward, even with that sort of adult mind, which it's great that our brain can be really efficient and can sort of find those conclusions and find those patterns really quickly. That's very valuable and great. But there's some ways in which that can inhibit our learning a little bit. So for me personally, as I was practicing recently and practicing this weekend, I was noticing that I have a little bit of some sound issues that I don't love. I feel like I sometimes can get this really wonderful sound and real good ease of playing, and then sometimes not so much. And I've been going through a ton of changes with reed changes, mouthpiece changes, some embouchure changes, just sort of continuing to explore and see what the options are. And I'm really quite happy with my setup, but I think I'm still kind of settling into the new embouchure and the new setup and finding that really good sound. And today, or this weekend on Saturday, as I was practicing, I really discovered some new ways of thinking of things and shifting my focus to places that I've almost never focused on before. It made a huge difference. So I'll start with the moral of the story and then go a little more in depth with what I was actually thinking. So definitely the takeaway and the moral of the story was to make sure to always be experimenting and continuing to explore and continuing to have really good awareness of what's going on and where things are at in your playing, and always be looking for opportunities for improvement and pursuing them and being creative about how you pursue them, because I think that's where it gets really fun and it's much more interesting rather than just doing the same thing over and over and over again. And again, with our sort of adult minds, we sort of get fixed on our track and we do, oh, these are the warm-up exercises I do every time, this is the way that I do them every time. The brain has gotten really efficient at doing that, and it's just going through it automatically, just doing what it always does. But it's when we do things differently that we actually play differently and make a difference and improve. So for me personally, what was happening is I was experimenting a little bit with voicing and tongue position, and again with embouchure changes, it sort of changed just a little bit how it feels. It wasn't a massive change, but I think it was a good change. And what I was focusing on Saturday while I was practicing that made a huge difference is paying a little bit more attention to sort of the openness of the throat and the soft palate, and sort of more of the oral cavity back here rather than just the high point of the tongue, the way the tongue is directing the air to the reed and the actual embouchure. So rather than focusing on sort of the first 2/3 of the embouchure, I was focusing on the back third, which is through the throat, the soft palate, more into sort of like the oral cavity and the resonance back here. And it made a huge difference for me. I've had maybe one teacher, maybe 2 teachers, and a few times in lessons talk about kind of the throat and soft palate and back there. But it's very rarely talked about, and it's something that in my practice I haven't thought about too much until recently, and it makes a huge difference. So if you need a little inspiration for something to focus on and think about, that might be a good one, thinking about sort of the furthest back part of the oral cavity and seeing how when you change how open the throat is or how sort of high the very, very back of the tongue that connects more sort of down here in the throat, changing that sort of opening and aperture makes a huge difference in playing. Or I encourage you to focus on and experiment with anything else that's of note to you. So maybe you've been struggling with fast fingers and you've been banging your head against the wall, playing the same passages over and over, trying to get them faster and trying to get them up to speed. I encourage you to do something different. Play it slower, start in a different place than you normally would rather than playing through one whole measure. Maybe start on beat 2 of the measure or beat 4 of the measure. Focus more on your finger motion where normally you just kind of wiggle the fingers however they go. Think about being more relaxed. Keep experimenting, keep exploring, keep trying new things, keep thinking in new ways, and that's how you'll find better ways of playing, how you'll be able to pursue those opportunities for improvement and actually make the progress that you want in your clarinet and music journey. So hopefully that's a good little bit of inspiration for you, and I really encourage you to try it. I also have our template that we fill out every single live Monday music motivation. I didn't have a chance to fill mine out yet because I was doing some score studying for a really exciting project that I have coming up in February, which maybe you'll hear about at some point. But go ahead and fill out your practice template. This is what it looks like. It's the date for the week, reflection of how things are going, goal for what you want to work on, and your plan for when you're going to do it. And you can get this exact template at quickstartclarinet.com/get started in my free members area, which also has a ton of other free handouts and downloads and things like that as well. For this, the reflection is just sort of how have things been going for you? Your goal is something very specific and tangible that you're going to accomplish this week. That's sort of the next step in your journey. It doesn't have to be, I'm going to be the best clarinetist in the world by the end of this week, but what's the next step you need to take to get to where you want to be that you can accomplish this week? And then most importantly, the plan. Put in the actual dates and times, schedule it in your calendar, write it in your planner, however you organize your life, treat it like an appointment that you aren't going to miss so that you show up and make that progress and improvement. And as you're working on that, practicing, make sure that you continue to experiment, think of new things, think in new ways so that you can get out of that sort of automatic process that, especially if you're an adult learner, your brain is so efficient at. Even if you're not an adult learner, your brain probably does lots of things automatically in your practice session that you can bring a little bit more awareness to, do things a little bit differently, and make an actual difference in your playing. So that's all I have for this week's live Monday music motivation. I hope everybody has a fantastic week and a fantastic week of practice. If you have any questions about any of these ideas, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to fill out your practice template. Right now, that's what I'm going to do right when I end this, is fill out my practice template and get my practice scheduled for this week. So have a great week, and I'll see you next week on the next live Monday music motivation. Happy practicing.